Polypede Works here, coming to you once again with One Piece chapter 1146, entitled A Stir in the Silence. So, I was right, boys. Yeah, I was right. So, okay, a lot of people were calling this in various places, but I'm glad we were all right in the end. ULTI and Page 1 are joining Yamato in the 31st volume of this cover story. Very excited. Now, funny things about this. One, she just invites Page 1 into joining Yamato along with her, which is very funny. Also, I did not know that ULTI is only 5'8" and Yamato is 8'8". I did not know there was a 3-foot difference between the two sisters. So that's very funny. I like that a lot. Also, too, I did a little bit of research. The cover story involving Jinbei, where he gets the poneglyph for Big Mom, is 28 issues, right? The Oh My Family cover story with Capone Beige is 37. So we're getting up there, and this being one of the longest cover stories in One Piece, because we're at 31 right now. And it says, Only Child Yamato and the Holy Inari Shrine Pilgrimage, Volume 31. We owe you our lives. Please let us serve you. So, like I said, they're going to be left behind to serve Momonosuke as Yamato sets sail. I still think the carpenter guy, I keep forgetting his name, the guy with the nails in his nose, I think he's going to be responsible for building her ship. I think that's what's going to occur. But I'm very happy that this has resulted in her actually building up her scabbards. Oh, I'm so happy we were all right on that. Oh, yeah. It feels good. It feels good. But moving on with the chapter, we have the Colon Pirates being confronted with Gunko. And Gunko, in this weird scene, says, oh, you think I'm human, when the Colon Pirates identify her as one of the human intruders. And that's what we get, a shot of Brooke looking at her. It's so interesting. I don't know why that's interesting to me, because we know that she's a Brooke fan. So I don't know if she knows that he's the Soul King. I don't know. But I mean, she would have to. And that's what she states. We are deities. We are above you humans. And Usopp mentions NL because he compares this description to NL and the Celestial Dragons. So Eniru, NL is being mentioned in modern day One Piece. Quite interesting considering the mural. Just saying, huh? That's when Nami questions, why would you all go after the children of Elbaf? But of course, we know this is because giants are always a deciding factor in these big world wars. But as she's explained that, we cut to Ripley, Bonnie, Lilith, and Frankie. And Frankie is actually the one to take out the giant thundercloud entity that Killingham made. So that's pretty interesting. Or might I say, it's pretty super! I love Frankie. I love when Frankie's in action. Oh, Frankie in action is peak. Elbaf has no bad sides, baby. Elbaf on top. But cutting back to the Colon Pirates, Gunko just goes on and on. But cut to Jinbei saying, so you're a celestial dragon. And then Usopp says, no, they're worse. She's nothing like the ones I was picturing, though. But Brooke is the one who says, quite definitively, I'm afraid this one likely holds an even higher rank, a holy knight. Why was Brooke chosen to say that? Each chapter in which we get Brooke saying little things like this makes him more and more of an interesting character. And it's weird, too, that Jinbei doesn't know. Because Jinbei just kind of amasses knowledge from the ether. It's very odd. Like, he knew what Sulong... I keep saying that. That freaked me out back in the day. Like, he just knew beat for beat, bar for bar, what Sulong was. I hate that. I hate that so much. Why did he know that? Why did he know that? That bothers me. Why did he know that? But see, the difference is, Brooke is from a time period that we know nothing about. We know nothing about that weird period in which Roger was a rookie on the high seas. Perhaps even before he even amassed a proper crew together, it was just like, what, him and Rayleigh bumming about. So the fact that Brooke is saying this right now, that he knows what a Holy Knight is, is quite interesting. Goku confirms that she is a Holy Knight, and that's when she starts to use her powers on the Colon Pirates. Nami summons Zeus, and she turns Zeus into a shark. Thunder Shark Tempo. This is cool, bro. This is rad. No, this is peak. Has Zeus been able? No, Zeus would transform the climate attack. He did so like back in Onigashima, I think against Saturn, where he became a big mace, a big morning star. So this is fascinating because I don't think we've ever seen the cloud variation of Zeus turn into things. So Nami uses a shark-themed attack before Jinbei. What in the world is happening, dog? That's funny. That's funny. Goku uses her powers to redirect the attack back onto Nami. Nami tries to outrun the attack, and it seems like it makes contact with Nami, but it was Brook. And of course, Brook is immune to lightning, so it was A-okay. And both of them give a thumbs up. Incredible, fantastic, phenomenal. I love it. Does his hat disappear when he becomes a shark? Yeah, his hat disappears when he becomes a shark. How funny. That's great. I love that. I love that a lot. How many powers does Zeus have? I guess this isn't necessarily a power, but I don't know. We've just never seen like the weird ethereal elemental homies transform in this way. At least not out of the grass of Big Mom. Because of course, Big Mom turned Prometheus and Hera into Mother Misery, right? So, wow, I don't know. That's interesting. That's cool. I like that a lot. Usopp tries his hand at attacking Gunko next, and it appears that he blows her to smithereens. However, she starts to regenerate. So from this, I'm going to say that Gunko is a special paramecia, and her setup is much like Katakuri's, much like Trebo's, much like Galdino's, and I made a big video about this way back in the day. I'll link it here. Go watch it, because I say that there are a lot of prerequisites amongst a ton of characters that may make them special paramecias. Magellan is included in that. The guy that has the Venom fruit, he's included in that because a lot of these guys, Doflamingo too, a lot of these guys have very similar powers. And this power in particular is very similar to what Katakuri's setup is. So, with that being said, her entire body, at least when she's taking a battle stance, could just be hidden within a body of arrows that act as armor, which in her case in particular would make a lot of sense seeing as how she is a Holy Knight. So a Holy Knight making armor. The reason why I bring this up, because it's very funny that both Doflamingo and Katakuri do the same thing, and both of them have a knight theme, seeing as how Big Mom had all these chess soldiers. Of course, there's a knight piece in chess, and then Katakuri makes an armor emoji that looks like his body. So that way, it always seems as though he's regenerating, but he's just moving his body out of the way of attacks and letting the clone mochi armor take the hit. We see this with Doflamingo. He doesn't use it in the same way, but he uses an attack called Black Knight, which makes a lot of sense too, because like Gunko, he is in the Celestial Dragons, and he lets that knight made out of string do the fighting for him, instead of using that knight as a suit of armor like Gunko is doing here. So I explained this in more detail in that video I made. Go check that out. But continuing, because it was said by Saul that the arrows appear to be made out of some cloth, and when she first used her powers on those giant guards way back when, it looked like they were wrapped up in bandages. So yeah, in the way that Usopp hits her, it looks like, again, she's made of cloth because she's ripped up as she's regenerating. But it appears as though Gunko's real body is being hidden in a clone body that she has created of herself using the cloth arrows that she can generate. And we've seen this type of power before, presumably from the first time this type of power was introduced, because Galdino also made a suit of armor out of wax in the Little Garden arc, where we are first introduced to giants. So that's very on topic considering where we're at now in the land of giants, Elbaf. And then you have a lot of situations like, say, Trebo, who also fought Usopp and like Gunko, seemingly was mortally wounded by Usopp because Usopp managed to bisect him. But it seems as though with certain individuals who have this type of power, the substance that they generate has some sort of effect that seems to be able to generate an infinite amount of space with inside the substance, meaning that they can hide in any sort of amount of this substance and be perfectly fine, or they can store objects within this body of the substance that they have generated along with themselves and be completely fine. Because in the fight between Luffy and Katakuri, Katakuri pulls out his trident, Mogura, from his arm, meaning that he was storing his trident within the Mochi body that he has constructed around himself. That means these constructed bodies that these special paramecia users are able to make most likely have the property of being able to store infinite mass within the body somehow. At least that's the going theory, and I talk about that a lot in that video I mentioned. That is what seems to be going on with Gunko here, but to continue. So yeah, her body is, I guess, encased in an armor of this cloth-like arrow construct. Super interesting. She is fascinating. And she takes this opportunity to put out an arrow, surfs on it, which supposedly leaves her open because Brook says an attack that telegraphs itself. How absurd. And Jinbei is also ready to defend Usopp as he says, "Leave it to me, Usopp." Also in this scene, which I didn't notice before, yeah, it is cloth because it is a physical thing once again because Nami is able to grab it as she's trying to redirect it away from Usopp, but she can't. Meanwhile, the Giants, along with Copper Caban, take out some more of these constructs made by Killingham, while Gunko says a giant world war is coming. Nami says it's never going to happen. Gunko continues to surf on her arrow, but we make a very interesting cut. We have Fat Loki along with Fat Luffy. This is the best to see in the world. This is the best. Simply the best. Loki's the best character this arc. No. Fat Loki. Yes, sir. This character keeps getting better. This character keeps getting better. So there is no doubt in my mind that he's a good guy because to be depicted in this way is phenomenal. It is fantastic. It is the moment. He is the king. Look at him. Peak male form. Look at him. Absolutely phenomenal. Love Fat Loki. Love him. I hope this does improve the plastic fruit allegations. I hope it does because I'm getting this vibe. The parallels continue between him and Luffy. I don't know, bruh. I don't know. I can see it. But yeah, Colan tries to defend himself against Gunko. Doesn't work. An arrow snaps him up. So he gets kidnapped. And that's when Brook and Jinbei go on the offensive. However, Gunko counters and makes them strike one another. The funny thing about this is that Brook does more damage to Jinbei than Jinbei does to Brook. Because even though Jinbei manages to knock Brook's head off, Brook is a skeleton. He has no water in his body. Therefore, Fishman Karate does not work on him. However, Brook manages to stab Jinbei and draw blood from Jinbei. I did not know that Brook's thrusts were that strong, but it makes sense because in Punk Hazard, when Brook is fighting Kinemon's torso, he is able to pull off that gunshot thrust that Ryuma was able to do back in Thriller Bark. And I made a video about that a while ago. So it is canon that he has at least reached the strength of zombie Ryuma. So it's possible that he's gotten even stronger since then, because I was at the start of the time skip, basically. So, wow. And she manages to counter both of them with something called Aloe Fated Arrow. Crazy attack. She then proceeds to kick Nami in the face, and that is when the arrow met with its destination, and Gunko arrives to knee Usopp in the face. Wow. Crazy work. And from this outward shot here, it appears that the arrow, well, yeah, it makes sense, duh. The arrow is sending Colan away, which is what we've been seeing so far. I don't know why that confused me, but yeah, that's what we've been seeing so far because the arrow is guiding the children on their way to the shore as well. So yeah, I guess that's where Colin is being taken by this arrow too. She then calls up Killingham after she defeats all the Straw Hats. And then we cut back to the Warrior School, in which Killingham has dispatched Principal Kiba by flipping him over his shoulder, which I guess makes a lot of sense because Killingham is an awakened mythical Zoan, so super strength is on the table. I can't figure out why he's saying, "Oh my, those are quite sharp." I don't know what he's saying that to. Is he flipping Kiba onto something? I can't make that out. But anyway, we find out too that Killingham has even more powers that he let on because he has actually given Ange sleep paralysis while she's awake. I don't know how that works, but he's doing it. That's when he discovers the telediction Mushu, or the telediction snail that they've been using on Elbaf to communicate. He calls up Summers, who is in a fight with Saul. Here's what's weird about Summers fighting Saul here. It appears that he too might be a special paramecia. Don't know how this works exactly, but based on his first power showing, in which the power is named, it appears as though, yeah, he can just generate thorny vines. Again, watch that video I made about special paramecias, because it appears as though he's just generating these vines. And I guess these vines have the same properties, or perhaps a more aggressive property, than the weird barbed thorn force field had that we first saw him use on the various children of the Warrior School. So yeah, he's giving Saul the work, but does commend Saul on his strength and how he's having a little bit of difficulty with him because he was a former vice admiral. That's when he communicates to Robin and Chopper, who are in his beard, to stay hidden. So yeah, also what's weird is that the sword that I thought he had on his person that had that barbed thorn handle appears to be a big club, like a kanabo of some sort, or perhaps he's making it a kanabo by wrapping thorns around it and it's coated black, so he's probably using hockey on it as well. That's crazy. So we don't know how the weapon looks like normally, because from this outward shot that we see, the kanabo type club seems to be humongous as it extends far beyond Sommer's body as Saul falls down into the thorns. That's when Summers takes the time to curse Harold for making Elbaf soft with making schools and such, as giants are supposed to be the mercenaries of the world government, saying that Harold messed everything up. So this does color Harold, because I wonder what this technically means for him. Like, is he a big rat? Or was he trying to do the right thing, but being a rat was a consequence of him doing the right thing? Because I don't think the schools are a net negative, even though they seem that way on the surface, because weakening the country's future isn't a good thing, even though war at that time wasn't immediate or imminent. It just seems kind of odd to weaken the defenses of the country to make the country more, I guess, agreeable with other nations so they could trade and whatnot. Seeing as how for a very long time in One Piece, giants are often regarded as this big cinder block of strength for any militia. Big Mom praised the power of giants. Kaido kept giants. Moria praised the power of oars. That's why he went after Ip's corpse, etc., etc. So there's a lot of emphasis on giants being a big boon to military strength. Even like with Buggy and having the new giant warrior pirates at his command, that too was a big boon, and they were his highest earners. So yeah, it's super interesting, and he is right that yeah, giants are important. But I just wonder what were Harold's intentions. I still think that much like in the fight between Katakuri and Luffy, or Kaido and Luffy, that something happened or someone interrupted and Loki managed to kill his father on accident. So we'll have to wait and see, because there's no break next week. No break next week. Fantastic. But with that being said, that's about it for this chapter. Very good chapter. I love we got to see Fat Loki. That's heartwarming. I love it. But we'll see where these events lead, and we have to see Loki in action. I can't wait until he's healed. But with that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Paula Pede. What?